was 18 years old when he was beaten to death inside a mobile phone shop. He was working for a drug dealer in the local area, and a dispute with another drug dealer resulted in him getting involved and ending up becoming the victim of this dispute. To really understand the story, we need to go back to 2017. Kieran Williams was convicted for operating a drug network on the Langsdale estate in Everton. They said that apart from selling drugs, they also were involved in gang shootings, and they used the homeless people of the city to generate a lot of income. Kieran was jailed for 4 years in 2017, but when he came out of prison, he was still heavily involved with drugs in the local area. And what happens when you sell drugs a lot of the time in a small condensed area is you will get enemies, and he had an enemy for his whole life since the teenage years. His name was Jerry. The police never fully identified who Jerry was. This is where Michael Toohey comes into it. In 2021, the 18-year-old started selling drugs for Jerry, and he was the rival of Kieran. Due to this fact, Kieran tried to attack Michael several times, and this made Michael want to carry a weapon to protect himself from these older people that wanted to cause him harm. This week, 4 men and 1 child, 14 years old, have been convicted for the murder of 18-year-old Michael Toohey in the Everton area of Liverpool. Initially, 9 people were arrested and at least 9 people were somehow involved, but only 4 of them and the teenager were convicted of involvement with the murder. Kieran Williams was one of those defendants. The jury heard that Michael had been chased inside the Mobile Junction and Internet Cafe that was in Monument Place off London Road. He was beaten by a mob of at least 8 people, and he suffered severe injuries in the back room. The police believe it was in relation to the feud between Kieran and a man called Jerry, but Kieran Williams said the 14-year-old called him because Michael had pulled a knife out on him and he wanted backup. A witness told the police at the time, and this was heard in court, that she said she heard screaming and shouting coming from inside the shop, and the paramedics arrived, and sadly he was pronounced dead at the scene. Detectives charged 9 people originally with his murder, but several of them, as I said, were found not guilty. At Liverpool Crown Court on the 14th of November, they all pleaded not guilty to murder. And on Friday the 6th of January, Kieran Williams, now 28 years old, of no fixed abode, and Anthony Williams from the Walton area, alongside Michael Williams and Steven McInerney, were found guilty of Michael's murder. The jury found a further 3 defendants not guilty of murder, and the 14-year-old was also found guilty. A date is yet to be set for the sentencing. Court papers revealed witness statements from the scene, and one woman, who they said was Woman A, told the court that her and her partner was outside a shop called TJ Hughes at the time that Michael came past. She said that a group of lads were talking and suddenly Michael just shot off on his bike. The witness said she realised that Michael was fleeing from a white Volkswagen Golf car, and she saw the car slam on its brakes and a man jump out and chase him into the shop. This man was Kieran Williams. The jury heard Williams had previously chased Michael due to a rivalry with a different drug dealer who was never identified. The witness said she ran into the shop to try to stop Kieran from attacking him. She said that Michael was behind the counter and the 2 men were trying to climb over it. I said to him, "Leave him alone, he's only a child." And Kieran turned round and said that he would stab me. She told the jury that Williams was shouting, "I will fucking kill you," to Michael. And he was saying, "Leave it, please leave it." The woman then went outside and took a photo of the Volkswagen car. And she also shouted at the other boys that was outside. But at this point, she said several other men arrived and 2 boys were riding on push bikes. She said one of them took the seat off the bike and carried it into the shop, and this was used as a weapon to attack Michael. She said in an interview to the police, "All I could see was people. There was people everywhere. It was like a mosh pit. Everyone was just everywhere. Arms were getting thrown about and there was a lot of shouting and also screaming." The witness told the police that Kieran had thrown several punches that she had witnessed at Michael. After the attack, her partner tried to perform CPR on Michael, but he was in too much of a bad way and it didn't seem to be helping. They tried to save Michael's life, and during this time as well, they noticed a knife and the woman made the choice to put it inside her handbag. The police would later discover this handbag and find the knife as well, and she said she hid it so as to not let Michael get in trouble because at the time she didn't know if he would survive. The jury also found a second knife inside the shop, And when the jury asked the witness why she knew that Michael carried a blade, she said that it was for his own protection. He had been attacked several times before by Kieran Williams, and when he was going for the city centre. So this really does explain through the evidence how Michael kind of got involved in a situation that was nothing to do with him, and because he was running drugs for this man, his enemies automatically became his enemies. So you can sort of inherit beef from people without even knowing it, just due to your association sometimes. The detective in charge of the case, Stephen McGrath, said this was a truly shocking and brutal assault, and it was a tragic and senseless death of a young man. They also learned during the trial that he was about to become a father as well. So a young child is going to grow up never knowing their father due to the fact that somebody else had a problem with somebody else. During my research for this story, I was able to find an article in The Guardian that covered the story of his cousin that was killed. It was a long time ago, so there wouldn't be a lot of in-depth coverage at that time. It was reported that the Delaney's were travelling people and they lived on a caravan site next to the Liverpool docks. They believed that their child was killed for simply being a gypsy. Johnny Daly was allegedly beaten to death in the middle of a playing field in Ellesmere Port back in 2003. This was a town across the Mersey River where he had gone to visit friends. A local person tried to resuscitate Johnny when they found him, but it didn't work. 2 boys aged 15 and 16 were charged with his murder. 3 other children were also released without charge. Cheshire Police say they cannot comment any further at the time as to whether it was racially motivated. So this is a really tragic story where this family has been affected twice, young children beaten to death. And in one case, it seems like pure hatred, and in another case, it was simply being involved in something that you had nothing to do with. So rest in peace to Michael Toohey and also Johnny Delaney. And I really want to hear what people have to say on this story. Don't forget to follow on social media at Scarcity Studios, and I'll be back again very shortly with some more news. Peace.